Hello, it's Spence from WP Launch Club with your WordPress tip of the day. I know a lot of you are probably overwhelmed with all of the OpenAI Chat GPT things you're seeing, but I have an example here of how I think this technology is going to start to be used for creating new types of jobs. Now, as somebody who is a developer wearing that hat very, very lightly and loosely in the WordPress space, I learned the old-fashioned way. First CSS, then HTML, then PHP, then JavaScript, then some jQuery. I know a little tiny bit here and there of MySQL and things how to manipulate JSON and so forth. I'm trying to avoid any of the modern tools as much as possible, like React and so forth. But the nice thing about WordPress was that it was at the level with the four basic ones, HTML, CSS, PHP, jQuery, JavaScript, that I could get stuff done. And when I needed to, I was able to create child themes, create whole site solutions, make snippets, and even write the Launch Flows plugin. Now, in the last week or so, had a number of requests on the Launch Flows plugin of functionality that people would like to add. It sometimes is like speaking another language where I have to go back and go out of marketer mode, go out of video editor mode, go out of running the business mode, go out of customer service mode, and go into thinking like a developer mode. Here's where I did an experiment with this OpenAI, and I just see on a personal level how incredible this can be. Essentially, what you need as a modern skill is understanding the fundamentals of how things are phrased or what words are used to describe something, and then to be able to speak in that language to the OpenAI interface and ask it to do something for you. So one of the requests I had was to add parameters to the order review that would allow each individual item to be displayed or not displayed, and likewise to do things like add color. It's been a little while since I was doing an update, so I did an experiment here where I literally went into OpenAI and I said, write a WordPress plugin that enables one to add a shortcode to the checkout page to show the details of every item in the cart, and be sure to also include shortcode parameters that will allow the user to specify whether to hide or show each of the following: remove from cart, product thumbnail, product title, quantity, product price. Now, I'm not going to use this literally as a plugin, but as a function that I can then tweak and merge into what I've already got as the framework of the Launch Flows plugin. But I was able to test this as a plugin to see if it works, and I'll be damned, it works just as expected. There's a few things that I know from experience that I would change, and I would also do things like specify it to my particular translation string and so forth so that it works with the plugin and the other code. But I would say this saved me 30 minutes of futzing around, and it generated in under 5 seconds. So to test this, I took this code and I went into one of my test beds, and I just happened to use so you can see it here, I used the WP file manager, and I created a new plugin folder called cart details, made a PHP file, and pasted this in place. Now, for those of you who've never developed in WordPress, these basics, understanding how to do this step of, where to put a plugin, how to structure it and whatever, those are things that you probably still will need to learn in the future, just to sort of understand like where to put your controls or hands on the controls. But then I pasted this in, and I also understood the concept of what a shortcode is, so I was able to take the cart details. Then I went and made a page, and I did that over here. I just made a page in Gutenberg, and I added a shortcode block, and I put the cart details in. Now, this is where it really is interesting, because I was able to see, let's click on this, that it just spits out exactly as necessary. Now, I find this interesting for two reasons. First of all, I know from experience that unless you call something out as being a WooCommerce page, it's often difficult to get an output of what's in the cart. The code that it wrote was smart enough to figure that out. Number two, is it put in the proper elements in the order that I specified. So again, being good at instructions are going to be the kind of skills you'll need in the future in order to tell the machine what to do. Number three is I didn't give any parameters about how big to make the thumbnail or what colors, or even, for example, how to specify when the parameters should work as far as display or not. So for example, when you see here the thumbnail, remember I had instructed it to give me the ability to have parameters. So in my case, if I say thumbnail equals false, if I had written it myself, I would have written instructions. True means show it, false means don't show it. Here, that doesn't work. Instead, I had to figure out, of course, a null value is what is going to make the thumbnails disappear. But when I do it that way, it works. I was also pleasantly surprised to see that the remove functionality works. That's something that's not easy to write unless you're experienced with WooCommerce. So all in all, the takeaway from this that I'm sharing with you is I, as a not really greatly skilled developer, but one who's been developing for, on and off 16 years, but really the last 3 years, I was able to use OpenAI to take something that was just a menial task and using my general understanding of what I needed to ask it to do the task for me. And then it spat the task out in a usable format that probably saved me 80 to 90% of the time of doing that errand. And if you use that as a skill set, it's almost like the metaphor of writing a book or writing blog posts or even in some ways doing these new videos. If you know what you want, you can use it to save you from the mundane stuff, but you still need to know the basic architecture, the basic concepts, because otherwise you're not going to know the things to ask it to do. It's not like it can just tap into your wish or your will. You have to still have the rudimentary knowledge. And so I'm going to use another metaphor of language where I speak maybe 1 or 2 languages, one of which is reasonably fluent, like Spanish, and a few of the Slavic languages. But I would be hard-pressed to be conversational unless I was constantly practicing, unless I had a device, like in some cases I have on my phone, where it translates in real time. This is metaphorically like having that capability, but now extending it to all kinds of other things. Creating blog content, video content, in this case, code content. I still need to understand what I want to think about, what I want it to do, but it will save me the chore. I hope this kind of opens up your eyes that, again, the AI is not perfect. I've asked it to do other tasks today that it failed at miserably because it just didn't understand what the human being would really want at the other end. But that, again, is something that will come over time. And when it does, it's going to make it a little harder for some people who are not willing to learn the basics. But if you can understand the basics of what the human beings want as the output, you can actually, I think, use this to save yourself a lot of time and to further hone your capacity to output things in a shorter period of time. This is Spence. I'll see you in the next video.